What's the difference between O.J. Simpson and Diddy? I'm going to be explaining that to you folks. So please sit down, get your coffee, and relax. You know, folks, Diddy does not want this to win. He has a propaganda machine like I never seen. And you all seen when he began it in that docu-series that Netflix put out, produced, executive produced by 50 Cent. Diddy don't want this to end because he's got such an ego. He actually loves all this here. Even though people were talking bad about him, he likes it, okay? Because he's out there on the news all the time. Now, you've seen that video. If you have not seen that docuseries, you must see it. Good morning, Sheridan. Good morning, Michael. Thank you so much for coming. And thank everybody else here, all right, who's not leaving a comment, all right? Folks, if you scroll through YouTube, everybody is got stories on Diddy. It's just crazy how one person, and this is, folks, I'm seeing people in other countries that are reporting this. Now, let's talk about him beating women. Now, as many of you who know me, you know I do not like men who beat women. And I'm only going to talk about men who beat women, not women who beat men, because that's such a small minority, it's not worth talking about, okay? It's basically about men beating women. So the similarities between O.J. Simpson and Diddy, they're very alike. You've seen Diddy go on as tyrants, pounding on his desk, throwing things, yelling at people. You've all seen it. There's London, how are you? Good morning. You've all seen it. Not once, not twice, but many times. It's out there. Now, I need to give a shout out to Tisa Tells. She did such an amazing job. 2 days ago, I think it was, that I saw her, or the day before yesterday, okay, of how, while Diddy was in college, how he was yelling his girlfriend's name at the sorority house to get her out, and when she finally came, he took his belt and whipped her. Now, that was in college. Now, I also have to give a shout out to Gene Deal, because somebody did tell me, all right, that Gene mentioned that a long time. But Tisa, she did great research, and she did great reporting on that there. So that's in college, when he was around 18 years old, okay? Thank you, Horror Boy, for subscribing. Folks, if you haven't subscribed to my network yet, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe, like, share, and all those good things, you know? And I want to thank those people that, you know, once my video got posted, some of you have hit that thanks button, and I appreciate that there. But folks, let's get into this here, because I What's the difference between OJ and Diddy? I, with my own eyes, I witnessed OJ Simpson doing the same thing right in his driveway in Rockingham, over here in Brentwood, how he was yelling, pounding on a car at his wife. And how did I find out? Let me explain that story. Why was I there, right? Okay. Joe Esposito, who was Elvis Presley's right-hand man, he's the guy that found Elvis, all right, when Elvis became unalive. And Joe, my car was in a garage, so Joe had a limousine company. Offices were up here on Sunset Boulevard. And I met Priscilla, I met all the guys from Nashville or Memphis that were with Diddy. And Joe and I were great friends. So he let me take a car for the weekend. And I needed it for an extra day. It was a Monday, okay? And Joe called me up. He says, I need the car. All right, can you go pick up OJ and drive him to the airport? I said, Joe, Emilio's his driver. Tell Emilio to drive over to Joe. I'll meet to OJ. I'll meet him, give him the limousine. And this is when limousines were nice, when they were classy, not these SUVs they got all over the place. Okay, I gotta admit, I don't like those SUVs. I don't know about you folks. Okay? But, man, we got 120 people here. This is awesome, folks. It's one of my most on Saturday here. That's great. So I want to thank you all for coming, okay? So anyways, I drive up there. I go through the gate. Emilio's in his car. OJ's in the driveway. If Emilio and I were not there, he probably would have gone and been beaten his wife, okay? And I witnessed it. And anyways, so I was right there. That's the reason that I was there. I took Emilio's car, gave him the limousine, and I left. OJ drove him to the airport, where I think he had to go do a commercial for Hertz, okay? All right? Thank you, Sherry, and telling everybody, hit that like and subscribe button, please. Okay? But let's get in, okay? Diddy could end up being indicted on other charges, on other things. Because what this docuseries did, it's bringing out a lot of other people. Okay, even one of Diddy's baby mamas or ex-wives, whatever they call it, okay, brought it out, okay? And Diddy won in the federal court. He beat the RICO charges and other things. We all know that. He got indicted. You keep saying that you are tired of talking about Diddy. Ray Johnson, you're correct, okay? But he's the top of the news, Ray, okay? So as long as he's the top of the news, I'm going to be talking about it. Folks, it's my friend Ray. We've been conversing for a long time. I thank him, all right, for all his comments and everything, okay? So I'm going to talk about what's hot in the market, and this is hot, okay? So don't criticize me for it. Criticize everybody else on YouTube, all right? But I happen to know things that people don't know. But now let's go where I was talking about. Okay, folks? O.J. Simpson was in state court here in Los Angeles. He beat the murder raps, right? But what happened to him? Eventually, boom, in Las Vegas, for him trying to get uh, his own mementos, all right? He got indicted, and he was sentenced to 33 years. He got paroled after 9. He did 9 years in state prison. Now here's Diddy on the opposite end of the thing, okay? He beat, and let's say he beat the charges, federal charges, the ones that could have hurt him the most. But now he's being investigated here in Los Angeles from Jonathan Hayes. And from what I hear, Jonathan Hayes has the receipts to prove what happened to him. Now, we're going to have to wait and see how the investigation goes out. But I think there's going to be other serious indictments on him. Does the feds really want to go after him again? That I don't know, okay? Maybe they've had enough of him, okay? Or maybe not. But how did Diddy start this thing about beating a woman? Now, as I told you, T. Sattel's reported when he was 18 years old in college. You've seen it on the 50 Cent docuseries where he slapped his mother. You've heard Gene Deal talk about how he abused his mother. So was he abusing his mother at an early age? Did he pick this up? All right? Ray, I don't have time to answer all your things, okay? Am I repeating some stuff? Maybe I am, okay? But stay tuned. Listen, you might learn something, Ray, okay? All right? Free Diddy for what? You know, a lot of the people who love Diddy, who worship him, they no longer like him. They want nothing to do with him, okay? Somebody asked me, why am I the accidental gangster? It's all in my book, folks, okay? Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all right? From insurance salesman to Hollywood fixer. Okay, you want to buy a book? If you read, you want to buy this book, okay? Thank you there, $1, all right? Hey folks, you know, people were reporting that Diddy had $9,000 in his backpack, okay, when they got him before he was arrested at the hotel in New York. Remember that? Let me explain why he had 9,000. More than likely, all right, he went to the bank and took that $9,000 out. Now, you should know the law is if you take 10,000 out, you got to fill out all these papers for the IRS. But you take below 10,000, you do not have to. That's my thinking of why he had the 9,000. Okay, you're right there, bank. Thank you. Okay. I think Diddy was getting ready to have a party. Now look, one thing that Diddy likes to do is be filmed. Be filmed all the time. He's always got somebody filming him, except when he went to the bathroom. So when did this fascination of filming, okay, Now look at Diddy didn't care about his own brothers and sisters. He didn't want to pay his own brothers and sisters because he was the king. He was the king. He didn't want them to have money to become powerful. All right? And if he don't repent, so far he's taken no action, no responsibility he's taken. He's sitting in prison. And trust me, I know every inmate in prison is always worried, okay, about when the release comes, if there's going to be another indictment. And Diddy's got more reason than anybody else in prison. Yes. And we all have to repent, okay? So Diddy's very concerned about that. Don't think he's not, okay? He's not having that great of a time in prison, all right? But, so wouldn't it be funny if Diddy gets indicted here in Los Angeles? How many years will he be looking at, okay? Let's say he got another 10 on the thing with Jonathan Hayes. Or maybe another state, maybe something else will come up, okay? Because this isn't something that Diddy stopped doing 5 years ago, and they need things within 5 years. Except for murder. There's no statute of limitations on that there. If you listen to that 50 Cents in that docu-series, talk about Biggie. Let's talk about that. Diddy didn't want to come out here to California. This was after Tupac became unalive. He didn't want to come out here. People told him not to come out of here. You had that East-West Coast war going on, all right? Diddy insisted. Biggie was supposed to go to England for a tour or something, okay? Diddy told him not to go. Diddy canceled it. Kept him here. Why did he try so hard to keep Biggie Smalls here in Los Angeles? Why? That rings a bell in my head. It seemed like he knew something was going to happen to Biggie. And we all know it happened. I didn't know Biggie, okay? But he seemed like a nice kid, all right? Who has left us all too early, just like Tupac. You got KFD saying Diddy offered $1 million for Tupac and Suge Knight. But they got Tupac. So it's not as he took, a piece and went on and did it himself, but was he behind it? And can they prove it? They need corroborating evidence. All right? Okay? Tracy, you think there's more charges too. A lot of people think there's going to be a lot more charges. And, I think so too. And, those two jurors, one juror said, He didn't get nothing. That juror, the Indian juror, let's talk about him first, okay? Do you know it's okay in India to beat your wife or your girlfriend? That's what I understand, I was told, okay? This guy didn't believe Cassie or Capricorn Carp because it went back. But anybody knows about abused women, they do go back. I had a situation here where the vice president of the Universal Studios called me and wanted to meet me and introduce me to somebody to take care of a problem, okay? And so I said, well, meet me at the Four Seasons at 7 o'clock. I walk in, my friend, first name was Gene. He's sitting there with a beautiful girl. I'm going to tell you something. She was gorgeous. Sit down, hi, introduced myself, a little small talk. I said, how can I help you? Well, her boyfriend was beating her. And 2 nights before, she called the police, and the police put him in jail. Mr. Wright, thank you very much for the $1. Okay? Mr. Wright hit me up with $1 there. I appreciate that there. So I said, yeah, so what's the problem if he's in jail? Well, they released him, and he's back in. And wait, she did tell me she changed the locks and everything. I said, wait now, so you told me you changed the locks, but yet he's back in the house, and he beats you again. She said, yeah. She said, I want him out. I said, okay. I said, I can get him out. I said, I could send a couple of my guys and have him out in a couple of minutes. All right? Hey, there's Nancy Lyon. Good morning. So I said, okay, not a problem. I said, but let me ask you a question. How long have you been with this guy? She said, 7 years. I said, has he been doing this for 7 years? She said, yes. I said, you know, I can go over there, have my guys take him right out, change your locks, okay? But it's not going to change nothing. Because you know what you're going to do? You're going to call the police again. And then you know who the police are putting in jail? For me taking them out, they'll put me in jail. I said, honey, you got a severe problem. There's several organizations that can help you. They will protect you. I said, but I'm the wrong guy. I said, you've been doing this for 7 years. Now you folks all know, all right, that, you know, psychiatrists, they talked about the subject, okay? It's the fear in these women that they keep taking the man back. That fear is very real. Now, in the case of Cassie and the other girls, and also the guys, Diddy was a powerhouse, okay? Him and Jay-Z, they're like the Twin Towers. They were the guys that could make or break you in the music business, all right? And what'd he tell Tisha? I gave you a 10-record deal. She never got it, but she was hoping for it, okay? All the people, I'm going to do this for you, I'm going to do that for you. What about the guy, I think his name's Kirk Burrell, okay? Kirk Burrell, who began Bad Boy Records with him, who owned 25% of the company, but Diddy wanted it back. Excuse me. He wanted it back. And he went into his office with a bat. It scared the shit out of this kid. and he signed over. Kirk Burroughs has never gotten a nickel, all right, for his 25%. He's suing because Diddy's mother, Janice, owns Bad Boy Records. All right, she owns all the stocks in it. Huh? I spent me 50 cents? Okay, so what? All right? I tell you, folks, I make mistakes sometimes too, but I know what I'm talking about here. Okay? So, somebody said I spelled 50 cent name wrong. I'm gonna have to check it and I'll change it. Thank you for that. Okay, I appreciate that there. All right? Somebody said it's scary to get old. No, folks. Okay, you should hope that you get old. Okay? That would be a blessing. I'm going to be 81 years old here in not too many more days. What's the date today? 6, the 17th. Yep. What's the most evil thing about the music industry that I can impart you on? Folks, I was involved in the music business for a while, along with Sonny Franchise and a couple of the managers and some artists. And, you know, I'm going to tell you something now. I'm not going to get into that. I could save that for another time. All right? But let's go back. Kirk Burroughs didn't get nothing. Then Lil Rod, who wrote the album Love, I think he was a writer on that there. And Diddy promised him all his money. This kid should have made a few $1 million from that album. He got 0. Oh, now let's see, wait now. These are Diddy's brothers and sisters. He didn't pay them. You see in that video, he wanted to be recorded before he got arrested. Wow. They hired this guy to do it. But he didn't pay the guy. He didn't pay the guy or have a contract with him that Diddy would own that footage. So who owns it? That guy owns it. Okay? If you film me and we don't have a contract, you got nothing. Okay? You own it. I'm sorry. You own it. All right? So that guy sold it to Netflix. I don't know how much he got. They're not disclosing his name, but eventually I feel it'll come out like everything else does. All right? I wanted to share that with you folks today. I can go on and go on like everybody else and talk about different things. But will Diddy end up like O.J. Simpson? Leave it in your comments. Tell me what your thought. Leave it in my comment. Leave a comment. Okay, folks? And once again, I'm going to ask you, please subscribe, like, and share. And, you know, we got a lot of people here today. All right? You might be right. You know, Diddy isn't. He wanted to do a world tour. When he comes out, he wanted to go to Madison Square Garden. Come on. Will you guys tell me, leave a comment. If Diddy got out of prison and did a concert at Madison Square Garden, will you buy a ticket? All right? I wouldn't. But tell me if you would. Please leave a comment, okay? All right? Still Dick said hell no. Most of you say no. How has one guy become so much loved? He was a great singer, supposedly. I didn't listen to him. Man, he tried to dance like Michael Jackson. All right, he did okay. All right. Become a billionaire and used his money all the wrong way. Somebody asked me, what do I think of the politics and the state? You don't want I'm going to leave that for another time. But I got to tell you, I'm not very happy. Okay? Not very happy. But we'll get into that on another day, folks, okay? Money is paper when you get older. No politics. You like that, Kevin? About politics? Thank you. The DIDDY, the PC case. Now, folks, let's talk about this case right here in Los Angeles from Jonathan Hayes. What he did to this guy with Biggie's shirt. He said he was friends with Biggie. Diddy was never friends with nobody. Diddy could never be a friend to anybody. Diddy thought he was born to be worshipped. And people worshipped him because he had money. He had the power. He could make you a star in the music business. And maybe even all right? Somebody said his parents. Well, he only had one parent, his mother. His father was a gangster that got unalived, okay? But there's stories about his mother having these wild parties, all right, with a lot of things going on. Diddy was a little boy, he's seen it. Normally what happens to when you get older, you normally form these, what's the word I want to say? All right, the formation of things of what you begin around age 4, from what I was told from psychiatrists, okay? So Diddy's seeing these, okay? Maybe he's seen men beat women, all right, when he was a young kid. So he would think that's okay, that's normal. Because Diddy began way before. Teach to Tell did a great job, like I said, all right? Showing him at 18 years old in college, whipping a lady. So he had to be doing that before, okay? And maybe some of the girls will come out. Who knows? We will see, all right? Diddy's a demon. If there's anything worse than a demon, you could put Diddy in that category, that's for sure, okay? I mean, holy crap. I like YouTube, folks. I get a lot of good information, but everything's about Diddy, Diddy, Diddy. I mean, look at Tisha Tells. She was in the show. She talked about Diddy's propaganda machine, all right? Now, folks, if you remember, he was telling Mark Agnelloff on the telephone, all right, Get the dirtiest of the dirty. Now, I don't know if Mark Aguilar found somebody or Diddy found somebody, but they found the dirtiest of the dirtiest with his propaganda machine. Now, I saw it. I don't know if you all saw it, okay? But remember, while the trial was going on and Tisha Tells came out of the courtroom and Diddy's people went after her to try to abuse her? Remember that? I saw it. So she knows about the propaganda machine that he's got, okay? It's not a few people. And who's behind this? Who's operating this? Okay? You remember it, Ben. Thank you. Okay? Who is operating it? You know, they mentioned Christine Corner's name, KK. But, you know, she was an accomplice, no question about it. Huh? But no indictment. I'm sure the feds had talked to her or tried to talk to her. I don't see nothing happening. She's obviously very loyal to Diddy. So, is she the one? Because she's smart enough to be able to do it. Is she the one in charge of this propaganda machine, PR machine that Diddy has out there? Folks, as much as we know, there's so many still unanswered questions that we don't know. Now, the Las Vegas police are not investigating Diddy. They have their man, Keefe D, who was in the car that unalived Tupac. Trust me, I don't want to be talking about Diddy. But you know what? I was a gangster. Diddy was not a gangster. He's a punk. He's a punk that got lucky and made a lot of money. Okay? Nothing more. Thank you, Austin, for that there. Folks, happy you all came here today. You know, and, you know, talking about Diddy. You know, I'm tired of it. But, you know, he keeps wanting me to talk about it because it's his machine that keeps putting information out there. All right? You're right, Peace. Yes, us gangsters didn't hurt kids and women. I was watching a show. People want to say, oh, Diddy was involved with the mafia. Trust me, he was not. Okay? If we knew about those freak-out parties, forget about it. Forget about it. All right? We don't like men who beat women. Hi, Rex. Got a lot of new people here today. I hope you're subscribing. Diddy's money. So that's very observant. Somebody wrote here that Diddy's money is what's keeping him alive. He is in prison. He's in a low security. A low security is sort of like a camp, actually, except it's got a little fence around it, okay? So it's not a bad place, trust me. I was in a medium security, all right? And that wasn't a bad place. We had several barbed wire all over. Okay, it was higher than the low, but you know, my friends have been at Fort Dix. I had 100 friends who've been at Fort Dix, and you know, they said it's a camp. All right, it's no big thing. All right. Somebody asked, "What's the worst thing I seen in prison?" Man, folks, I seen a riot one time between the Southsiders and North Anglo, and I saw the Southsiders come out with socks. They had their locker in. I seen them take a guy's ear right off. All right. Uh, Thank you, Austin. Somebody, how old? I'm 81 years old, folks. Just a few days away from being 81. Okay? The Lord's keeping me here on this earth for some reason, and I hope it's for me to be able to give you my wisdom from my life experiences and things that I did. I prefer coming on here and talking to you about positive things, how to succeed in business, okay? And those type of things is what I love talking about. I've given speaking. I am a speaker. When people hire me, I'm going to be in March in San Diego. It's all on motivation. It's about Napoleon Hill. Okay, you all know Napoleon Hill. He wrote Think and Grow Rich. All right, I got that book right here. Okay, it's a book that everybody should read. Those are the things that I enjoy talking about because I'm generally helping people. And that's what I like to do. Every night when I go to bed, I pray and I ask the Lord to give me another day so I can help make this world a better place and make people happy. And talking about Diddy, all right, everybody wants to hear about Diddy, Diddy, Diddy. Diddy the Punk. If you remember, you go back and look at my other videos. I'm the first one that began, I called him Punk Diddy, okay? And I got a lot of views on it, okay? I've been to his home here in Homeville where I recorded things, all right, a few times. They're up there, you can watch those, all right? Thank you, Mimi. I do know what I'm talking about because I only come out here and tell you the truth, the facts. I'm not here to mislead anybody. You know, social media is all about, creating conflicts and things like that there. Somebody writes, Clive Davis. Trust me, Diddy's tendencies of beating women and what he does happened before, and his sexual appetite for both men and women, that happened before he even knew Clive Davis, okay? So Clive Davis was just another little link in the chain into the music business, all right? All right? Tyler asked me, how do you reconcile the life of a gangster with the path of a follower of God? Well, first of all, you got to take responsibility for everything that you've done, which I have done many times. I take full responsibility for the good, the bad, and the ugly. And yes, there was some ugly. I was a gangster, folks. But I changed. See, we do have the opportunity to change. I had it. I came out of prison, I wanted nothing more to do with life. I left it. I promised my children, who supported me for the 5 years that I was in prison, They, thank you, Austin, for subbing. All right? I promised my children because they said, you go back to prison, Dad, we're not going to support you. And trust me, it was my children that made sure my commissary had money in it every single month so I could buy what I wanted in prison. Okay? I kept that promise. And I wrote a book. Alright? Alright? This being made into a Hollywood movie. So, and I've mentored many young men and women to stay out of the gangs, to stay out of a life of crime. I taught them how to become entrepreneurs, to find something they love doing, okay, and get off the streets. Yes, I mentored a lot of young men and women, and I enjoy doing that because that's from the things, the bad things I'd done, I was able to take it and reverse that coin into good things. So folks, there is redemption, but you gotta want it. You gotta have a desire for it, okay? Could Diddy get redemption? Yes, he can, if he wants it. But he doesn't want it yet, okay? He hasn't proven to anybody that he wants it. I feel bad for his children. I feel really bad for those two young girls from Kim Porter, okay, that he had with her. All right? Look at all the children. I had to go through that trial and see everybody what they're talking about their father. Reparation for Black America, yeah, I agree, of course. Okay? Having a revaluing common sense. People don't have common sense. You know, folks, look at, I don't care whatever anybody's sexual orientation is. That's not important to me. Whatever it is, but be happy with whatever you do, okay? So folks, let's see if Diddy ends up like O.J. Simpson. I don't know how the investigation is going, okay? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think they might find sufficient evidence because there were witnesses, okay? I believe there's somebody out there that's still alive who was close to Diddy and who knows more information about what happened to Tupac and Biggie. If they ever come out, Diddy is fried. Folks, it's Saturday. I want you all to have a great day. Be happy. Make somebody else happy today. Sometimes it's like I always tell you, all right? It's a simple, hey, good morning, how you doing? Okay? How's your family? How you doing, Mimi? People like to hear their names, all right? How you doing, Dane? Okay? Agent Orange, good morning, buddy. How are you? There you are. It was one I didn't see you earlier. Okay, you're going to have to hit the replay. Folks, I haven't been out of the house yet. I normally out. I got to go take my walk. And because I got to stay healthy so I can keep coming and sharing my life stories and my wisdom with you. All right? Everybody have a great, blessed day. You all have all my love and respect. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Take care, folks.